Okay, next question.
Right here. Yes, do you think that more money should be spent educating our officers, ADS, and judges?
Well, it depends on, I guess, whose money it is. That's always an issue with anybody that's got the money. One of the problems we've got in government is that we don't have a lot of money. And to the extent that we do have money, we hear that we don't have a lot of money to be spent on certain things. One of the challenges I think that we face in the criminal justice system is the budget that we have to work under. I know that the judicial budget has been ordered to be trimmed annually for the last few years. I know that when I worked for Bill Cox in the district attorney's office, there was always an issue as to whether we were going to get staffing and have enough people. I think to at least some degree, if not a large degree, the resulting dispositions in cases have to do with staffing. And as Judge Wilson said, sometimes there are many cases, and not very often are there many prosecutors to handle those cases. And sometimes cases are resolved in an effort to move the docket, and so that they're not piled under by the cases that are coming for the next day, or the week, or whatever. But from the standpoint of money and education, separate and apart from the money, I think educating officers, assistant district attorneys, defense attorneys, public defenders, and judges is a good idea. I think that it goes on. I don't know necessarily whether more money should be. I know more money always could be spent. But I do know that with what is being budgeted now, from a judge's standpoint, it's not uncommon to go to a judicial conference and have a presentation on domestic violence and domestic violence victims and how to handle domestic violence cases. And I know that when I worked as an assistant district attorney, there was great emphasis on that as we go to our continuing, and would at that time even as an assistant district attorney go to the continuing education conferences. So there is a great emphasis there. And I think what that we touched on earlier with Charlotte about the steps that were taken in the late 90s to educate prosecutors and police officers, I think that has resulted in a perpetuation of an understanding of what should be done with regard to these cases. And I wasn't around in the criminal justice system prior to '95, but I've heard about things. And I think that the criminal justice system and the way that it deals with victims of domestic violence has graduated and come a long way.
We've come a long way in the last 20 years. The whole view of domestic violence, or even the recognition of it, has really changed.
I think that program that you talked about to train officers to do evidence-based prosecutions would be great, because, like you say, it then doesn't put the pressure on the victim to put himself or herself in the middle of it, and the police can prosecute. And that would, I think, help a lot. Another factor, though, in these, the vast number of the domestic violence cases that we see are Class A misdemeanors. That's a simple assault. Unless a weapon is used or there's serious bodily injury, it's going to be Class A misdemeanors. So you have a great volume of those cases. And how much resources will the police devote to that case across the board? I think it would be better if they focus, because again, they can't put all their resources on every case. People who think that every case is going to have fingerprints and people are going to be looking at magnifying glasses.
In CIS, it's not real.
No. Class A misdemeanor assault, they go out, they talk to the victim, they decide who's at fault, they take him or her to jail, and that's about the end of the investigation that they do. They're back on duty. So in terms of the typical case in General Sessions Court, there's very little investigations done after after the scene of the crime, after they leave the scene of the crime.
The statistics from TB are that 33% of arrested are spent on domestic violence cases. So about a third, because that's big volume of cases.
So, Ms. Boatwright, to that question, where should the money be spent? Who should be educated and where does it come from? In your research?
I'll be honest with you, I don't have the answer to that question, and to me, it's so much bigger than just the justice system.
Oh,
I'm just as concerned about the issues we have in the healthcare system, what it's costing, about $200 billion a year. I mean, we're paying the bills for these injuries and for people who are disabled. The case we talked about, I think it was with the hammer, or the guy went into the classroom with a hammer. The one who never teach again. I mean, these are the kinds of injuries that sometimes occur, or somebody dies. I'm concerned about health care. I just think we need to be looking at prevention. We are not doing very much with prevention. We need to be teaching kids that violence is not the way to solve problems. So we've got so many things that I don't think that answer is simple, but we do need to split some of our resources from, we don't need to be totally tertiary in our approach. In other words, treat it, wait till it gets as bad as it can get till it's up at Judge Steelman's court or somebody's dead. Or, we need to try to be looking at ways that we can catch it. In other words, we need to put the ambulance at the top of the cliff instead of the bottom.